Hey everyone, good evening. It's 4:28 p.m. right now, Eastern Time. I got home a little bit later than I planned. I had a little bit of an issue and got it taken care of, but everything's good. I'm going to go ahead and dive right in. Currently ahead of the main line, we do have some small storms popping up around Bradley County, Polk County over here. These are separated from the main line. Some down around Calhoun and Resaca, Ranger as well. But to jump into this main line of storms, which is actually coming in fairly weak, we have storms, covering all the way up here around Grundy County, Marion County, down into, Jackson County, DeKalb, and down here Cherokee County, Alabama, then over here towards Dade County, Georgia, Walker County, Georgia, Chattooga County, Georgia, Floyd County, Georgia. Basically everywhere along the Tennessee-Alabama state line, Georgia-Alabama state line area. So this tri-state area and around. One thing I do want to show with these storms on the velocity map, when you start seeing these pink colors, that means we're seeing some higher gust storms, more sustained, higher winds within these storms. So this may be a bit of an anomaly, but this is such a large area, so I don't believe it. Right now, this is not an anomaly. I'm going to go ahead and say heading towards Dade County, Georgia, Jackson County, Alabama, we have a storm with some very strong straight line winds. It's going to be crossing into Dade County, Georgia as we speak, heading towards Coal City, New Home, and see with that newest scan, it actually has made its way in. This reading on the radar is not exactly perfect, but according to this, we may be seeing winds into the 85 mile an hour area. The severe thunderstorm warning's been updated to winds around 70 miles per hour, but I would say that that is probably inaccurate, and we may be seeing gusts pushing 80, 85 miles per hour. So again, this is Alabama moving into Georgia, right here at the Tennessee, Georgia, Alabama intersection. And then it'll be heading in the direction right here, kind of in the armpit of I-59, I-24. And we will also be looking to see if it's going to make its way towards the Tiftonia Lookout Mountain area in Hamilton County. So I wanted to highlight that storm. A little bit further south, we have some storms still with some high gusts around the 60, 65 mile an hour range. Moving towards Cloudland Canyon State Park. And another little bunch of, higher wind storms heading towards Masseyville, Cedar Grove, Sulphur Springs Station area. I'm going to zoom back out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take this back to the reflectivity map, but then I'm going to split that map so we can keep an eye on those velocities as well. So the largest area of concern is definitely this portion of the storm north of Trenton, right here just in the corner of Dade County, Georgia, heading kind of up towards Marion County, Tennessee. That is a significant storm. And looking at it right now, it doesn't look like much reflectivity wise, but again, this map only really shows moisture concentration. It does not tell the whole story. That's why we pair it with velocity maps. Let's move to the relative velocity map for a second. So we can see there's not really any rotation noticeable within these storms at the moment. So I'm not seeing threat of any tornadic activity. But that being said, when you're seeing its storm itself pushing winds around 80, 85 miles per hour, that can do damage just as well as like a EF0 to EF1 tornado. So we need to keep an eye on that. Yeah, the velocity map definitely does look ugly, Danielle. Got some phone calls coming in. I'm ignoring for the moment. Okay, so I'm going to say if you are within the Tiftonia Lookout Mountain area of Hamilton County, Whiteside of Marion County, any of those areas close in that section, be prepared for some very strong winds. We also have increasing winds south of Trenton, Georgia. It's just crossed over I-59. And then another set heading just south of Masseyville, Georgia, towards Cedar Grove. So Cloudland Canyon State Park area, Cedar Grove, Whiteside, Tennessee, Tiftonia and Lookout Mountain area in this bottom corner of Hamilton County all need to be prepared for some very strong thunderstorm winds making their way into those locations. To kind of look a little bit away from those higher risk storm areas up around, South Pittsburgh, Kimball, Jasper, Sequatchie, Whitwell, these areas of Marion County, we are still seeing those winds push around 60 to 65 miles per hour. The same goes for up here around Grundy County, Greeley Logger, Palmer, Beersheba Springs, Griffith Creek. These winds are pushing lower, 60 to 65 miles per hour. But that being said, you can see there's a pretty large space of those winds. We're looking at, about 6 miles from front to back with this storm, with these winds. As those winds are extended like that, you have longer exposure to the winds to things like trees, power lines, objects in your yard. And so that can, do some progressive damage as things go. So definitely caution needs to be used in all these areas. These little prefrontal storms here, I'm getting a severe thunderstorm warning on my watch as we speak. This is for Hamilton County, and it actually is stating those incredibly strong winds. So that has been updated towards Hamilton County. Okay, that got me off pace there for a second. These prefrontal storms that are around Calhoun and Resaca and Ellijay, Polk County, Bradley County, these areas, currently these storms are not very threatening. They're just, kind of like a nice little summer storm. And what we want is for those storms to eat up some of the energy so the storms further behind cannot pick up strength. All right. We are seeing weakening of these winds scan by scan as this storm pushes through Whiteside, heading towards the Lookout Mountain, Tiftonia area. That's a good thing, but these storms can continue to weaken and then re-strengthen. They're hitting some of the area landscape, geography, causing them to weaken a little bit, but we often see re-strengthening after that, so we will keep a close eye on these sections. We do see a much larger section of very strong winds passing over Cloudland Canyon State Park, heading towards Cooper Heights, High Point, Pond Springs. I would say even more towards Durham, Thompsonville, Hayesville. Right now, it's currently over the Ascalon area, around Top Mountain. And we do have a little small section of stronger winds currently located just south of Cedar Grove, getting close to Marsh Crossings, heading towards Lafayette, Georgia. So those of you within Lafayette, Georgia, need to be prepared for these stronger storm winds to make their way towards you. Moving back up to these other two sections, and then kind of projecting outward. This current largest section of very strong winds is projected to make its way towards Chickamauga, Georgia. And we are starting to see a little bit of anomaly, possibly rotation near the back end of this storm around Durham. I think this is going to be, yeah, that's not really strong rotation that I'm looking at. That's more, I think that's going to be a radar anomaly. So I would say that's not a rotation that I'm really looking at that point. It's just kind of some splitting off. I want to look at the very front of this. We're going to keep an eye on this storm. You can see on the reflectivity side, and this is why we use two separate maps. This area spanning from Thompsonville down to, we'll say, Cassandra, West Cove Road area. It's a pretty large section of some very strong damaging winds. If you are within this area or up around Whiteside, Lookout Mountain area, I'll say, honestly, anywhere from Lafayette up towards Red Bank, we've got some incredibly strong winds occurring with these storms. I may extend that, up a little bit higher, but if you're from Lafayette, Georgia up to Red Bank, Tennessee, within that area, you really need to use a lot of caution. Be prepared for storms with very strong, sustained winds coming into your area. This is something that we need to be careful for. What's also concerning is not just the wind speed. Here, you know what? I'm not seeing a lot on the reflectivity maps, so we're just going to make the large map purely winds. Maybe that'll help people, with smaller screens be able to see. Holy smokes. We are seeing radar indications of winds in excess of 100 miles an hour. Like I said, this is not perfect when it comes to radar readings of winds. This is kind of an estimation, but ladies and gentlemen, I am seeing wind readings off of this radar that I've never seen before. And I'm really trying to, not sound, I'm not trying to be, exciting within this. I'm trying to give you good information. I always try and give you good, clear, honest information. You can see right here on the map yourself, some of these yellow colors we're seeing. Okay, those winds have relaxed. That section has calmed down a little bit, but we're going to keep a close eye on this section of winds. Honestly, anywhere from, I want to get a better judgment around Chattanooga. Go a little bit further west because Red Bank doesn't really cover it very well. We're going to say anywhere from like Elder Mountain, Raccoon Mountain area down to, I would really say Lafayette. From Raccoon Mountain, Tennessee to Lafayette, Georgia. Within that area, including Chickamauga, Fort Oglethorpe, Lookout Mountain, downtown Chattanooga, Teutonia, Rossville, Georgia. All of these areas need to be prepared for a storm with some incredibly strong winds. I got a question on here from Tiffany's asking where I can't see the counties. So I'm reading off these town areas. This map is not very good at displaying counties. I can go in and make a quick change here. We're going to change the county line colors to make it more visible for this map. Sometimes it's not more visible for other maps. Okay, so the counties are now outlined in blue. That should help you be able to see the county boundaries a little bit better. But again, I'm working to read off these areas that need to be prepared for these very strong winds. I wanted to back up a little bit and just make sure that we're not missing any spectacular hazards. Let me go to this map for a second and compare this storm down in Rome. We've got some very broad rotation south of Rome down to Cave Spring area. It's not rotation that I feel like needs to be worried about as far as rotating storms go, but you've got a very broad storm with a lot of lightning occurring on the south side of Rome, down towards Cave Springs. But again, this wind field currently, the most recent scan is over Tiftonia. Or wait, we have a new scan coming in, so I'm going to wait and give the most recent information here. All right. So, areas that now need to be prepared for these strong winds. Chickamauga, Georgia, these winds are approaching you currently. Rock Spring, Noble, Center Grove, Robertsville, Wallaceville, Shady Nook, Flintstone, Chattanooga Valley, Alton Park. Really the whole, downtown area for Chattanooga needs to be prepared to see these winds, but specifically St. Elmo, Alton Park coming off of Lookout Mountain, moving towards East Lake, East Ridge, heading towards the intersection of I-27 and I-24. Yeah, all of these areas need to be prepared. There's still a very organized set of very strong winds over the Lookout Mountain area heading towards East Chattanooga, Rossville area with radar indicated winds around 80 miles per hour. As we watch this storm, we see breaking up down here these little sections of winds moving through Chickamauga, Georgia at the moment. But we've seen this one further north kind of bounce back and forth. And I kind of expected that. Areas that need to be prepared for these very strong winds to make their way through. Fort Oglethorpe, for sure. Fort Oglethorpe, Rossville, Lakeview, East Ridge, the whole East Ridge area, as well as the Brainerd area. A little bit further south, Rock Spring, moving towards Mount Pisgah, Beaumont, Blue Springs, Burning Bush. I would say the whole area of Catoosa County needs to be prepared for these very strong storm winds to make their way in. Okay, I've got a question where Hickson sits on the map. I need to drive towards Cleveland. Hickson is further north up here. There's Red Bank. Hickson's right in here. Cleveland's over here, but from Hickson you're going to have to go down 153 and hit 58 or 75. Right now, I would avoid I-75 area unless if you are north of Ooltewah. I would avoid the I-24 area unless if you are around Red Bank going north. I would avoid Highway 27 or Highway 153. Well, 153 actually looks like it might be fairly clear, but within about 15 minutes, I would say around 5 p.m., you need to be clear of 153 south of Highway 58. So that would be going towards I-75 on 153. You need to be clear of those areas. Really, outside of these stronger wind areas, these storms are feeling kind of lackluster. From downtown Chattanooga north, we do have some little small sections around Highway 127, right at the line here between Bledsoe County and Sequatchie County. Brush Creek, there is a small section of higher winds. Outside of that, not much going on north. And to the south, again, we've got a weekly rotating thunderstorm, very broad thunderstorm going south of Rome, Georgia in Floyd County. Not too much to worry about within that storm, but we're going to keep an eye on it. All right, so I want to go back into my main focus here. We still have an incredibly strong winded thunderstorm now in the East Ridge area, showing winds, a very large area of high winds. This section of the storm is around 4.25, 4.5 miles long. Hold on one second. I've got to send a message. Oh, wait, no, never mind. Never mind. I know a lot of people live within this Fort Oglethorpe Ringgold area. The winds are not as concentrated, but there are still pockets of very high winds. The largest concentration of these high winds is up around East Ridge. Still some sections around 80 miles per hour. Some of them are weaker, closer to 75, 70 miles per hour. I'm going to animate this a little bit so I can kind of see some storm motion here. We're starting to spread out. So I would say Chattanooga Airport, hopefully there's not a lot of flights going out of there right now. I-75 at the intersection of 153. The Hickory Valley area, Shallowford Hills area, Tyner Hills. Of course, Eastdale, the whole East Chattanooga area. Heading in the direction of, Tyner. And then off towards Collegedale, Ooltewah, Appleton. Camp Jordan area for East Ridge, of course. I think I already mentioned that. Smaller pockets around Fort Oglethorpe, heading in the direction of I-75, continuing on from west to east towards the Summit Hill area. All right, newer information. We do have a little bit of a gap forming here between the Tennessee-Georgia line down towards the Burning Bush area. But still south of Chickamauga, moving towards Tunnel Hill. Some very strong winds. And there's still some strong winds pocketed from Chickamauga up to Fort Oglethorpe too. They are just not as, large spread. Main area of focus is currently the East Ridge area, just getting hammered by strong winds right now. I would definitely expect power outages, numerous power outages, a lot of trees down, debris blown from houses across the streets. These are very, very strong sustained winds, and they're lasting, this isn't just brief. These are strong winds that are lasting, 10 minutes long. got a question. When will these storms be moved out? These storms will most definitely be gone within the whole area that I cover. I would say by 8 p.m. However, once they start calming down for these areas, so like if you live over in Marion County, you're already through it. If you're in Alabama, down throughout the whole area that I cover, you're already through the heavier storms. Down around Somerville, you're already through the heavier storms too, the heavier threat. Dade County, Georgia, it's past you. Up around like Grundy County, it's past you as well. So these storms are moving through very quickly. They're moving through very strongly, concentrated around the Tennessee-Georgia state line, East Ridge area, heading in the direction of Collegedale, Appleton, Ooltewah. It's currently the largest group of very strong winds is sitting right over I-75-24 interchange right here. So seeing some notifications of it getting windy around Ringgold. Those pockets of stronger winds are moving into the area a lot of people do call Ringgold. I know Ringgold is, displayed over here, but just like all areas, Ringgold, you might live just south of Fort Oglethorpe and consider yourself in Ringgold. So, areas of Ringgold, Fort Oglethorpe, Chickamauga, Tunnel Hill, Varnell, Cohutta, Georgia. These are all areas that are experiencing now or will be experiencing very, very strong winds. You can see this severe thunderstorm warning up here in Tennessee says wind probability around 80 miles per hour when the damage threat is considered destructive. This is very rare that we see this type of thunderstorm warning. It has not been updated recently, so it's still talking about moving through Whitwell. But they have updated up here at the very top, the threat level that has been updated more recently. These strong winds are now sitting right over the Chattanooga airport, right at the pocket of where 153 meets up with I-75, heading towards the Ooltewah area. I'm going to take just a moment and make sure my sister knows that this is going on. I was just out with my sister, some of the family playing on the playground at Imagination Station earlier today. Doing some of the, weekend family things. So I want to make sure that she didn't, so she went home after it was over with. All right, so we're still seeing a little bit of a smaller pocket, but we're still seeing these very strong wind gusts crossing Gun Barrel Road now, heading towards Valley View. Okay, so I want to start showing how this is drifting slightly north. So down here where Gun Barrel crosses East Brainerd Road, things are a little bit more relaxed at the moment. You may still have some strong wind gusts making their way in, but at the moment, things are a little bit more relaxed. Gray Road, if you know those areas very well, Gray Road's pretty close, but Gray Road's right at a pocket of where these very strong wind gusts, according to radar, are currently located. These winds seem to be heading towards Valley View, unfortunately Holly Hills, Drake Forest, Cambridge Estates, Yorktown Woods, Maplewood Heights. Looking out ahead, I would try to avoid Jenkins Road, Standiford Gap Road, Shallowford Road, Igo Gap, heading towards Ooltewah Ringgold Road. All of these areas, the Tyner area, the Shallowford Hills area, Silverdale, out around where the Silverdale schools are. These are areas that it would be best for you to be inside at the moment. Looking further south, I kind of zoomed in up there to the winds, and I kind of dropped off of looking further south. I did see kind of out of the corner that things were weakening down here. We do have winds still, considerably gusty for, 14-mile section. These winds are, still around 65, maybe a couple of 70-mile per hour, 75-mile-per-hour sections. So you still need to use caution, within Ringgold, Tunnel Hill, Fort Oglethorpe, heading towards Varnell, Cohutta, even just north of Dalton, that area between Tunnel Hill and Dalton. You've got like a large section of winds that are considered, dangerous. And they definitely, these trees can only take so much force. You get, maybe a minute or two gust of wind coming through at 60 miles per hour, a tree's probably going to be fine. But if you have these trees blown in 60 mile per hour wind for, 15 to 30 minutes, that puts a very big toll on these trees. So definitely be prepared for power outages, debris all over the streets, debris blown around yards, things like that. That's good reason for you to be inside if possible. We do see a little bit of decreasing within the winds up here in Tennessee, southern Hamilton County, where we've been keeping a close eye on. I want to kind of zoom out. Check down here in Rome. We're getting more defined rotation at this storm that is now to the east of Rome, Georgia, heading towards Kingston, Georgia, Cartersville area. But it is a very broadly rotating storm at the moment. I don't consider that a threat. I'm going to go ahead and look at the reflectivity map, see if there's anything, nothing too concerning that I see there. Like I said, my main concern is this strong storm area making its way, from Red Bank down to Eastridge, extending towards Appleton. Now, if you are right against this Tennessee-Georgia line, the winds are a little bit more relaxed. They're still going to be very gusty, but you're not hitting those high 70, low 80 mile per hour wind gusts. These gusts are heading more towards the College Dale area. Four Corners, of course, that's College Dale. Ooltewah, Summit. I hope there's not a lot of softball going on there today. These storms are starting to drift a little bit more north. So, if you're around kind of the south end of Harrison, let's kind of zoom in. So, Washington Hills, Heritage Hills, right here around, we're 1164 Lee Highway. So that's the Ooltewah exit right there. That's kind of the peak of where these stronger winds are flowing through. So definitely the Ooltewah area all the way down to Appleton, through Collegedale, Ooltewah Ringgold Road. Yeah, these are all areas that need to be prepared for these very strong winds. Matter of fact, I'm going to get up for just a second. I'm going to open this window over here beside me so I can kind of see how they're going out call it my weather window. Hopefully that's not trademarked. Okay, I've got my window open over here, and it is very, very, very strong winds blowing past my window at the moment. I'm down here in the Appleton area. Well, actually, you can see exactly where I am from the blue dot, evidently. And you can see I'm not even within these orange sections. So, these are storms that you definitely need to use caution in everywhere from the south end of Harrison, Ooltewah. I'm going to kind of zoom in here, see exactly. So, yeah, right there, the main Ooltewah area, Ooltewah, Georgetown. Up toward, I'd say the roundabout at Ooltewah, Georgetown is kind of like the limit on how far north this is. Down through Ooltewah, Collegedale, through Southern Adventist University and the McKee campus over here. Still going through the Collegedale University. Camp Road area, it's getting some very incredibly strong winds. East Brainerd Road as it passes into Appleton. Heading in the direction of Bill Jones Road near the railroad tracks. And we do have some of this section rising up a little bit more north towards the back end. So still kind of passing through the Silverdale and Tyner area up towards Washington Hills, making its way towards the Volkswagen plant. If you're around Volkswagen plant area, if you're there at work, stay inside. Don't go outside on break. And all this is heading more towards, the Mountain View Road area where the Ooltewah, Georgetown, Mountain View Road, they all kind of intersect right within there. I-75 going up White Oak Mountain. Be prepared in those areas as well. I'm just going to zoom back out, and we've got a little bit stronger winds down here. Let me switch my map back. I hope I'm not changing through and scrolling through too quickly for you. So Catoosa Springs, these heavier winds are starting to push towards the edge of Catoosa County, making their way more towards Whitfield County, the Varnell area, Cohutta area. To get a little bit more specific, Cohutta Varnell Road, Stewart Road, it's probably right over you right now. Heading towards Cleveland Road, just north of Plainview, Georgia, Cleveland Highway, Chattanooga Road. So from Chattanooga Road, also known as Wolf Street in Cohutta, down to Tunnel Hill Varnell Road near I-75. All those areas need to use caution for severe winds, very strong winds heading into your area as well. But we still have this very large area of winds making their way through Appleton. My little corner of Appleton, right here behind the elementary school, things have calmed down considerably. I'm going to zoom back in here because I know there's a lot of little pockets of areas. You have areas like the university, Southern Adventist University. It's starting to relax and clear out. We're pushing close to the Hamilton County, Bradley County line now as this storm makes its way over White Oak Mountain. You can kind of tell where White Oak Mountain is. The streets kind of start breaking up and becoming a little bit less right here at the line between Hamilton County and Bradley County. So still in the Ooltewah area, especially right there where the Ooltewah exit is, up Mountain View Road up towards the roundabout, heading towards Bradley County, the Pine Hill Park Store Lebanon, Blue Springs, McDonald. The McDonald area is going to catch the very northern tip of this. As we zoom out and see kind of the direction that these storms are heading. Okay, come on. I need this to... Alright, sometimes the software doesn't work perfect. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to close it and open it right back up. It kind of resets it. I've noticed when I play with it a lot on here, it starts to act up. Alright, so we can see the storm is drifting kind of east, northeast, kind of breaking up a little bit. We're starting to get those stronger winds again back across the Varnell area up to Cohutta area, Red Clay area, you know, around Red Clay State Park. So we're going to expand, and we'll say from Plainview, Georgia, all the way up to where I-75 rolls over White Oak Mountain. These areas need to be cautioned. I can't talk because I'm thinking so in depth right now. From Plainview, Georgia, to where 75 goes over White Oak Mountain, people need to be using caution due to wind gusts possibly exceeding 80 miles per hour. These winds are heading towards the south side of Cleveland, Tennessee. They are approaching the McDonald area. They're going to cross over southeast Dalton Pike here within about 5-10 minutes. And down where southeast Dalton Pike turns into Cleveland Highway in Georgia, they're currently crossing that area as we speak. Let's see, what's the speed these storms are traveling at? About 47 miles per hour. All right, so now that I've kind of discussed that, let me zoom out. Let me change pace for just a second. And I know that we've actually cleared a lot of these areas out of storms. And I know it's kind of hard to see because the map's really cluttered right now with some warnings and some lines. So let me clear that up a little bit. Oh, here it is, weather alerts. It always messes me up there. All right. So now we really just have the radar here with, you know, these plus marks showing the lightning. If you are, you make this color, or you can see it very well. If you are to the west of this line, so areas like Fort Oglethorpe, Chickamauga, Lafayette, Trenton, Dunlap, Red Bank, you know, all of Marion County, all of Sequatchie County, all of Grundy County, the southern half of Bledsoe County, down here, Dade County, Walker County, Chattooga County, Floyd County, all these counties in Alabama, which I cover. All of these counties, you are done with the storms. You can relax. You can take a breath. Everything's going to be good. We should not see any more significant storms tonight. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of that line. And let's actually take a look here. This is something I don't play around with very often. These are power outages. So in Marion County, You know, we've got around 600 people without power in Marion County. Dade County, you know, around 260 people. Hamilton County, we have significant power outages within Hamilton County. You know, around 4,000 people without power. Walker County, around 1,500 people. I guess it doesn't give me statistics for Catoosa County. So you can see there have been significant power outages in the area. Let's go ahead and scale back. Ladies and gentlemen, I've had some power flickers here. If I lose power, then I will pick this back up on my phone. Maybe in the future I can get a battery backup so I won't lose power. Alright, so we're going to go back to weather alerts. Let's cut those severe thunderstorm warnings back on. Let's go back to the velocity map. We can see those two sections of storms have kind of worked themselves together. So south of McDonald, Tennessee, and north of Varnell, Tennessee, from Varnell up to McDonald, you're currently experiencing these very strong wind gusts lasting from 5 to 10 minutes. These winds are moving towards, you know, Red Hill area, Nantahala Estates, Pumpkin Center, Felker, Union, Gap Spring in Bradley County. Currently over Cohutta right now and Red Clay in Georgia, heading towards Beaverdale. Running just north of Prater Mill Road, but it's still very windy in Prater Mill. And we got new data and it's still showing about the same. See if they've updated anything on the severe thunderstorm warning. This is stating the wind expectations within the storm are 60 miles per hour. And I'll say this again, radar indicated winds are not always perfect. So where I'm getting, you know, radar indications of winds around 75, pushing 80 miles per hour, that does not mean it absolutely is happening, but that means that there's definitely the potential and the best information I can give without being there. In East Brainerd, I have power yet. Power flicker in Cleveland. I-20 or exit 20. Oh, that might be important. Exit 20 on I-75. Oh, it's windy with rain. That was about a minute ago. Wind is picking up in South Bradley County. Lights flickering. It's getting bad in South Cleveland. Just lost power. So yeah, you know, we see reports on here of these conditions that I've been discussing. Saw a notification said things are picking up a little bit in Hickson or in Harrison. Let's kind of zoom in. Harrison, things are on their way to weakening, but you do have some little pockets of wind within. It's kind of working its way across the river at the moment, but these are not as expansive as the winds currently over the southern portion of Bradley County and running through Whitfield into Murray County, Georgia. I'm getting better at running through these counties. You know, I know all these counties one by one, but when I have to run through and hit them and hit them and hit them, I'll go ahead and admit I don't want to act like I'm better than I actually am. I have the little map of, Georgia, Tennessee, and Alabama, the counties that I cover, and I'll kind of roll through. You'll see my eyes look back over here to my left screen. That's me double checking, making sure I'm getting these county names right so I give the right information. Trying to work on being better here. Also, I know sometimes when things are getting a little crazy on the radar, I start talking more quickly. I move the screen around a lot. Trying not to do that as much so you can get a better image and hear more clearly what I'm trying to say. So, a couple people saying some strong thunder felt around the Brainerd area. I heard that rumble too. One thing that is fascinating, loud thunder does not really correlate with strong storms. So if you have a really loud rumble of thunder, that does not necessarily mean that you're having a bad storm. Loud thunder can be with a bad storm, but not always. All right, we've got, and this is earlier, this was around 20 minutes ago, we had an actual report of 52 mile per hour winds around the airport. Now that's good because the radar indication was saying that winds could have been stronger than that. Even 50 mile per hour winds can be hazardous. Getting reports of it being windy from Dalton to Tunnel Hill. You still have, some pretty good winds within that area. Even from Tunnel Hill up to, Varnell, Cohutta. It's still windy out there. I'm covering these orange sections where winds are, 70 to 80 miles per hour because those are the most hazardous. But, within these white areas, you can see there's some pretty extended area of strong wind gusts. I'm going to peek back down here. Make sure nothing's going on. To the south. Oh. Sorry for the yawn. I've been up since about 2:30 this morning, so. All right, so let me get this newest scan. Don't want to leave information sitting on the table. We do see this section. Let's make it. No. I'm running out of colors to use here that you can see very well. Okay, so this section of storm right here is starting to weaken. You see you got more, pockets, less defined areas of heavier winds. Still very windy. But we're generally looking at that as, we're seeing the storm get a little bit smaller, not pushing quite as hard. To go back out here on the right map. Oh, here I'm going to change. Let's change this map to reflectivity. It's kind of, it doesn't show the wind very well, but it still shows me, pretty well areas I can start calling clear. Bledsoe County, you've got about another 5 minutes for that severe northern portion of Bledsoe County. Definitely by 5:30 p.m. Actually, I believe Bledsoe County is Central Time, so that'll be 4:30 p.m. Central Time. Bledsoe County will be out of the, storm section. It may still rain. Hamilton County, I'd say about another 5 to 10 minutes as well. So probably by 5:30, Hamilton County will be completely in the clear. We're watching these winds work their way through Bradley County towards Polk County now. Down here in Georgia, let me name some counties that are clear down here in Georgia. So the counties which are through with storms for the evening are Dade, Walker, Catoosa, Whitfield, Chattooga, Floyd. The counties we're still watching these storms roll through and be making their way clear soon are Murray, Gordon, and Bartow County. Ray and Meigs County, you're really starting to see these storms make their way in at the moment. But luckily, up around here, really mostly, what you're dealing with is some heavy portions of rain. You're not seeing a lot of issues with these stronger wind gusts. Doesn't even appear like much lightning is occurring within those storms. Ugh, I need a cup of coffee soon. I apologize for the yawning. It may be a little unprofessional, but hey, we're all human. Oh, somebody said burgers going on the smoker at 6. Sean? Well, Sean, the problem is you're all the way on the other side of the county. I really don't want to drive anymore today. East Brainerd Graceville Road getting brighter out. A little thunder. Yeah, that's good to hear that the sun's starting to peek through a little bit more in that area. A lot of the thunder you're hearing is actually more towards Cleveland and over here as far as Polk County. We do have a little bit more thunder down here south of Cohutta Wildlife Management Area. What's with Bradley? Well, you got a storm in Bradley County. I know, that was not the best way of saying that. So the southern half of Bradley County, and then the northern half of Murray County, we have some strong winds in the area that are pushing their way towards Polk County. Polk County is going to be, these areas south of Highway 64 at first, and then it's going to they're going to make their way across 64 when you get close to, I call it the River Road. A lot of people call it the River Road. We just had significant decreasing within winds on this newest scan. So as these winds are making their way through Murray County, Georgia, areas north of Dalton, up towards the southern half of Bradley County, we have a significantly less area of these stronger winds. And that means this storm is continuing to weaken. We're going to keep an eye on it. We're going to see this all the way through, Polk County, as well as Murray County. And then after we're clear in Polk and sorry, my brain just blanked. Murray County. After these storms pass through Polk and Murray County, then we're going to be done with storms for the coverage area for the evening. By that time, I anticipate the storms being clear of Ray and Meigs and McMinn County up here as well. Right now, there are no severe thunderstorm warnings for Ray County, Meigs County, McMinn County, and those storms are making their way out of Bledsoe County completely. Bledsoe County, you are in the clear. Hamilton County, you still have some windy areas. But as soon as those winds die down a little bit, I'll say Hamilton County's in the clear as well. right. While we're waiting for the next little segment of data to come in, I'm going to leave the map up for just a second. I'm going to get a sip of water. And I'm back. The strongest cups ever made right here, the old Coca-Cola restaurant glasses. And that's kind of hard to see. You can't beat these cups. They last forever. My brother-in-law comes across some sell stuff from time to time, and he found them and asked me if I wanted a couple of them, and I was like, yeah, give me like 5 or 6 of them. We are getting some questions about tomorrow's storms. So while I've got a second, let me go ahead and I want to pull up the most recent SPC. That's kind of, a lot of y'all have known that is where I kind of start looking at storms. Generally, the SPC is not really delaying much of a risk tomorrow for storms for our area at all. Some of the area down around Georgia and severe eastern Tennessee is within the marginal section. So I'll keep an eye out, but I really don't think it's something that I'm going to even need to update on or anything like that. So if I feel like there's a threat, I'll post an update. But if you don't hear anything, the story goes with Engle Weather Service, no news is good news. I know that there's still significant power outages within the area, within my coverage area, due to the winds. I am seeing this map kind of display winds that, I'm sitting here looking out my window right now, and there's hardly any wind blowing, but according to this map, I may have winds around 60 miles per hour. I know that that's not true. So I think we've got some anomaly within the wind map at the moment. Let's see what we're seeing on the relative velocity map. See, it's, showing, well, that's relative velocity relative to storm motion. Base velocity. So yeah, we're not really seeing these winds occur. I'll go ahead and say for Hamilton County, you're in the clear completely. Ray and Meigs County, we're keeping an eye on these storms roll through the northern half. I got a little bit of rumble and thunder and some heavy rain heading just past Decatur and south of Spring City. Down here in Georgia, I know Murray County, you still have a severe thunderstorm warning in effect for your area, but you are clear. I'm going to go ahead and say that all of the counties within Georgia that I cover, you are clear of strong thunderstorms for the rest of the evening. You're just going to have some rain roll through. Use caution in areas that already saw heavy rain. These lingering rains can continue to pile up on top of that and cause ponding on roads. the main section of storm right now is rolling through, Polk County from Big Frog Wilderness area up towards Benton. Reliance is going to kind of get a double whammy of rain. It's going to pick up and it's going to calm down for a little bit. Then it's going to pick back up again. Northern half of Bradley County, you're kind of getting your rain at the moment now. But no severe thunderstorm warning within this rain. Not really any, maybe a small rumble of thunder, but not much going on in that as well. All right, so down here on the YouTube chat, I'm getting some questions about, how we're looking for the rest of the night. As I just said, once the heavier storms are past you, you will be good for the rest of the evening. And tomorrow we may see a couple of pop-up storms, but shouldn't be anything really severe. I'm going to focus more up on, Tennessee here. Kind of frame the map there. That kind of covers my coverage area pretty well. We'll bring it down into Georgia just a little bit. I don't really cover like McKaysville area. I don't really cover past Murray County, but some of you around that area can take a look anyways. Here, let me make sure. Well, okay, yeah, I want to make sure to get this northern section of Ray County. So we'll leave the map sitting right here and keep an eye on things. Next scan sees some of these heavier rain areas weaken a little bit around Spring City and Decatur. A couple of rumbles of thunder between Decatur and Spring City. Bradley County, by about 5:40, you should be completely clear of even the heavier rain. Hamilton County, you're starting to lose the rain completely. Have a wind reading right here from around the Harrison area. All right, we got a train storm spotter at 5:08 p.m., so about 30 minutes ago. Had measured winds at 60 miles per hour. This has been reported by a train storm spotter. There's power outage, multiple trees down, heavy wind gusts. So that is Birchwood Pike area, about halfway up Birchwood Pike between Highway 58 and Highway 60. And those pieces of information are important when storm spotters provide that, because that information also goes into the future data for models. And it helps improve the models. It helps, be able to look at things, at other times and, them display more accurately. I don't completely rely on models. I use models pretty heavily on here because it kind of shows a good display to you what I'm looking at, the things I'm seeing, why I'm kind of saying what I'm saying. But I definitely also use my mind and at times my gut feeling when it comes to giving the best storm information as possible, what I see coming, and what I'm predicting in the future. It's like I've got a built-in model up here in my brain. So we're kind of winding down here. I'd say probably by about 6 o'clock, 6:15 p.m., uh, the area should be clear of storms. Ray County and Meigs County, you have some pockets of heavier rain, which I'm going to continue to keep an eye on while watching this storm finish rolling through Polk County. It's over the River Road area right now. You can kind of see the moisture riding that wall of the canyon, running through the River Road, Highway 64. It'll probably lessen and break apart as it hits, Little Frog area, Ducktown. So probably within the next scan or two, it'll be interesting to see if that pocket of moisture kind of breaks up and expands, because geography does have an effect on the clouds, the storms, the way they interact. Ooh, might be an early night for me, ladies and gentlemen. It's only 5:40 p.m. right now, and like I say, I've been up since about 2:30 this morning. That's just the nature of working third shift and having a day off. But luckily, I don't have to stay up through the night and cover these storms. So if you're just kind of joining in, if you're just kind of bumping in here, or if you're wondering, you missed where I've said it earlier, once these storms make their way through, we won't have any other hazardous weather tonight. Just some lingering rain showers, maybe a rumble of thunder on the back end. And tomorrow, I'm not seeing the weather become particularly threatening or dangerous. We may have a pop-up or two across the entire area that, I may need to cover, but I don't anticipate that being much of a threat tomorrow. We have seen this severe thunderstorm warning around Polk County, Tennessee, kind of get a little bit smaller. They updated it. It's good for another 20 minutes, 19 minutes. Bradley County, you're completely in the clear. Ray County, you've got, another 5 to 7 minutes. If you're just joining in or you missed it earlier, all the counties in Georgia which I cover are now completely clear of hazardous storm conditions. Alabama's been clear for quite a while, and we've just got a little bit of a lingering storm right here in Polk County, Tennessee. I kind of dove in, so I'm making sure that people weren't. I always feel bad because I try to get information to people. Sometimes I get so dug in on being live that it's hard for me to keep track. Got some photos here. Trees down around the Apison area. And I'm going to, since we're just kind of watching this storm make its way out of the area in Polk County, I'm going to mute my microphone for just a second and make a phone call that I ignored just a little bit earlier. And I'm back. Still got some pretty heavy rain around McMinn County. Kind of more sustained, steady, heavy rain, not like a deluge of rain. Rain showers. So use caution around I-75 around Athens, the whole area of McMinn County, because there's definitely rain piling up on the roads. Raid County's clear of the real heavy rain. I still have some red around Meigs County, up around 10 Mile. That's almost gone. And I do think this section of storm that's currently around Sassafras Knob, Turtletown, just past Ducktown, I think that's going to work its way out before this severe thunderstorm warning expires. And if it does, then I'm going to go ahead and drop the live. Let's go back, and I want to see what the wind map, the velocity map is showing. So yeah, there's definitely some anomaly. While I'm just kind of sitting here talking, this area back here showing the stronger winds still around within Cleveland, Tennessee. That's not accurate. That can be due to the distance from the radar, and it could be a couple of other things. But yeah, it's not something that is showing me that there's a threat of strong winds on the ground at that point. Just kind of scrolling through the comments here. Making sure there weren't any recent questions I missed. While we're sitting here waiting, letting this roll through Polk County, keeping an eye on things and making sure they don't strengthen. To explain my movements here on the camera, I've got a screen to my right, which is all my radar. It's, what you're seeing on your screen, except for the little, video of me up in the corner. That's what I'm seeing on the whole right screen. On my left screen, I've got, the streaming screen for Facebook and for YouTube. And then off to the side, if anybody ever wonders what I use for streaming software, I actually use OBS. It's interesting. OBS is a great piece of software for streaming, and it's completely free. You can do things professionally from it. A lot of people who make a lot of money out there, I watch some YouTubers that do very high quality content, like Donut Operator, Brandon Herrera, people like that. And sometimes they'll show a picture of their computer and they've got OBS up and using the same stuff that they are. I've been working hard on doing some building out of the production quality, trying to make it look nice for you. I want to give you a good show. Might have missed if you mentioned, is McMinn really not going to be getting those winds originally called for? Lauren, you are completely correct. The winds have kind of worked their way out of the area that I cover. Still a couple of gusts here and there, but we now have had the severe thunderstorm warning removed from Marion County. There was not one issued for McMinn County. There may have been one briefly working its way up there, but I did not see any severe thunderstorm heading up towards McMinn County. Got a comment: power out at racetrack on APD 40 South Cleveland. I had some flickers here in Appleton, and luckily we didn't lose power here. But I want to say thank you to all of you that stuck around to the very end. Just to kind of go over it one more time, all of the areas which I cover for severe weather are now completely clear, and I'm no longer, having to worry about these storms in the area. There's no need to worry. We do have some areas of some rain, a couple of rumbles of thunder, but no severe winds, frequent lightning strikes, anything like that. And we should be good for the rest of the night. And I'll keep an eye on storms for tomorrow, but I do not anticipate them becoming something that I need to update or cover. I hope everybody has a wonderful night. I hope those of you who have power outages and trees down are able to work through that quickly. And I hate that it happened. And we will see you. Hopefully, I'll see you soon somewhere out around, at the grocery store or something like that, and not back here. So, have a great night, everybody.